you doing today, church?
Amen.
Blessed. Amen. Amen. Let me get situated up here. I'm glad to see everyone here.
Amen.
When I was driving up here, I actually was crossing or driving past all the traffic that's headed up to Arrowhead. And man, I hate being in traffic. And when I saw that, I said, thank God I'm going to church today.
Amen. Right.
The sad part about that is that it should be some traffic going to church.
Amen.
There should be a line up around the block. But for some reason, there's not. But I don't get sad about it because that means I still got work to do. It means I still have a job and God still has a purpose for me and you that we should go out and spread the gospel of His good news as often as we can. Amen. We are picking up our series on shockproof. And what shockproof this whole series is about withstanding the shocks of life and making sure that our faith does not crumble under the weight of any shocks that come against us. So when you experience sometimes tragedies in your life, whether it be from diseases, financial, relationships, job, whatever comes against you, if you're not prepared for the tragedy to hit you, what will happen is your faith will get shaken. And if your faith gets too shaken, then it is a possibility that it may crumble to the ground. Where we came from last week was we were talking about Peter and Peter's denial of Christ. And when he experienced the shaking of his faith, how did Peter react? And we came out of that sermon series, and please go check it out because it's a great sermon series. And we ended up coming out that the first thing you need to realize when you encounter tragedy in your life is you have to remember who you are. You have to remember who you are in the midst of tragedy because God promises last forever and God is faithful to His promises. So whatever God says that you are is exactly what you are no matter what you're facing or no matter what tragedies come your way. So we said that we are children of God, which means we have the right to be considered a child of God, which means there are rights and privileges that go along with that. We also said that we are blessed and we have purpose. So no matter what tragedy comes, it does not steal your purpose, but yet it is a story that adds to your purpose. And then last of all, we discovered that not only are we children of God, that we're purposed and blessed, but also that we are fully known and fully covered. That's what we came out last week. We are picking up this sermon series right on the heels of that. And it is in this series that I want to talk to you about a story that you might have heard before, a story that we should all be familiar with. The story is called David and Goliath. Has anybody ever heard of that story before? A few times. Does anybody know where it is in the Bible? 1 Samuel. Let's turn there. 1 Samuel, chapter 17. We're going to read this story. And we're not going to pick up from the very beginning, but we're going to pick up from where the action really starts to take place in David's life. This will be our sermon text, and it will be 1 Samuel chapter 17. And we'll be going from 19 all the way to about 52. So it's a long, but we'll talk along the way.
What verse? Chapter?
We're going to start in 19. It's 1 Samuel 17. And if you get to 1 Samuel 17, your heading may read David and Goliath. Okay? Say amen when you have it.
Amen.
I don't want part. Say amen when you have it, church. Amen. This is a long scripture, so I won't ask you to stand for this scripture, but I want you to follow along with this story. Now, just a backdrop of this story. David, at this point, is not the King David that we get to know later on in the Bible. David is merely a boy who has been called out of his normal surroundings as a shepherd into the field, a shepherd of the field, and he's called into the service of Saul where he's been playing the harp and easing Saul. But while he's been working that job part-time, he's been a full-time shepherd. Now in the field, David's jobs as a shepherd has taken him across many different challenges. He's not only had to keep many sheep together, although his brother Eli would eventually say it's a small herd of sheep. Any small herd of sheep is still a big feat for many. So David keeps these sheep together. Not only does he keep his sheep together, he also has to protect the sheep in the wilderness. Or in the field with his sheep. So he's had all of this. But on this particular day, in the midst of a great battle that is taking place around him, which he obviously knows little about, his father Jesse calls him to go to the front lines of the battle. And his father Jesse says, you got brothers that are on the front line of the battle. And what I want you to do is I want you to take them some bread. And I also want you to take the commanders of the army some cheese. And I want you to take it to them so that you can check on your brothers to make sure that they are okay. Right. And what I want you to do is after you check on them, bring me something back that belongs to them so I know that they're alive. So David, he says, okay. So David gets all of his stuff ready. And he goes down to meet his brothers. And this is where we pick up in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 19. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah. Now this valley of Elah is a particular valley. This valley of Elah is actually a place that's very fertile in the land of Israel. It's actually, if you were to go there now, you would see a lot of wine presses there. And the whole industry of wine is starting to develop around this valley of Elah in Israel. But what makes it so significant is that this valley is surrounded by two mountaintops, or two peaks. The two peaks is where the Israelite army is, and then the Philistine army is. This is where they are. And inside the valley, that's where the place where David will meet Goliath. But the two armies are at a standstill on the two peaks. No one wants to go down into the valley, because if you go down into the valley, you give up your strategic position. So they're both camped on the two peaks. So David goes there. And it says, and David rose early in the morning and left the sheep with the keeper, and took the provisions, that's the bread and the cheese, and went as Jesse had commanded him. Jesse is his father. Right. And he came to the encampment as the host was going out to the battle line, shouting the war cry. So basically, the army, they're going up to the hill, they're marching up to their peak, and they're screaming out this war cry. Now imagine these people that are so strong, they're screaming out these war cries. They look brave, right? They're saying, we can do it. We can defeat them. They got all of this courage within them going up to the line. But look what happens when they meet the enemy. It says that they were shouting out the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army. And David left the things in charge of the keeper and the baggage, and ran to the ranks and went and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of God, Goliath by name, came up out of the ranks of Philistines and spoke the same words as before. So basically Goliath has been coming every day, and Goliath is this huge giant. Right. They said he stood 9 feet and 9 inches tall. He was huge, and every day he would come up because nobody wanted to engage in battle in the valley because everybody wanted to stand still. Goliath stepped out and said, whoever is your best fighter, Israel, send him out so I can face him. Because Goliath has all of this pride that he can take on anybody because he's a giant. He looks fearsome. He's covered in all of this armor. So day by day he's been going out. Send whoever it is that you want to fight me, Israel, and I'll destroy him. So Goliath does it again here. He comes out, this big giant. And look what it says in verse 24. These same men that were shouting the war cry, we can do it, we can do it. Look what they say in verse 24. And all of the men of Israel, when they saw the man, what did they do?
They fled from him.
They fled from him and were much afraid. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come. This man, surely he has come to defy Israel. And the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. So basically that said, whoever defeats Goliath not only will get the hand of Saul's daughter, but will also get to live tax-free. Does anybody want to live tax-free?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That would make me, no matter how big the enemy is, having an incentive like that, I'll marry into the royal family, and then I won't even have to pay taxes anymore. You would think somebody would step up.
Well.
But the obstacle looked too great.
Well.
You would think somebody would step up to the challenge of taking control of the finances in your house. But the obstacles were too great. You would think somebody would step up and stop the hatred in the streets. But you don't. You drop past. Why? Because the obstacle was too great. You would think there would be somebody that could give a kind word to a passing stranger. But you don't. Why? Because it's too much of an obstacle. The obstacle's too great. You would think with the prospect of having life, if all you had to do was step up to the challenge and confront the fears, confront the disease, confront it all, but you won't do it. Why? Because the obstacle looks too great. And instead of stepping up, too many of us flee. In verse 26 it says, and David said to the men who stood by him, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine? I love David sees the problem, but he doesn't. He sees the stature, but he doesn't see it as a problem. He says, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Because I know that my God is the God that can take out anybody. Who is this man?
That's it.
But still everybody around him's like, hey, that's Goliath. I don't know if you've seen him before. And the people answered him in the same way. So shall it be done to the man who kills him? Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? Ain't it always a hater when you're trying to do that? It could be in your family. The hater could be in your family. You trying to say, you know what? God has called me to do something. I know I can do it. I know I can do it because God has strengthened me. But no, you can't do that. That's dangerous. What? You can't do that. Nobody's ever done that before. I know, but my God said I could. Lord, I know you're scared of the obstacle, but don't try to impregnate my mind with your fear. Because I don't want to give birth to your inadequacy.
Amen.
Glory to God.
Don't steal my testimony.
Glory.
Don't steal my testimony with your lack of faith. And it says, why have you come down? And whom have you left those sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil in your heart. Eliab, if you only knew, I wouldn't have been down here if it was up to me. I came down here because I was obeying who? My father. And David said, what have I done now? Was it not but a word? And he turned away with him toward another and spoke in the same way. And the people answered him again as before. So David's inquiring, what will you get if you defeat Goliath? 31. When the words that David spoke were heard, they repeated them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of wars from his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep sheep for his father. And when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he rose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Lord have mercy. David was grabbing lions by beards and bears by tails. Lord, this is a brave brother right here. It says, your servant has struck down both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them. Amen. For he has defied the armies of the living God. And David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. So David said, it doesn't matter what you see, because the God that was with me in the field is the same God that's with me in the valley. The same God that's with me when I'm over my sheep will be the same God that's with me when I go and meet the enemy. It says it doesn't matter how big the obstacle is if my God is with me. So Saul, Saul ain't trying to go out there. Saul's been in war before. He said, no, I can't do this. He says, the Lord be with you.
Amen.
Lord be with you. That sounds like that sounds like Star Wars. Unfortunately, the Lord be with you. Then Saul clove David with his arm. This is interesting. Then Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a helmet of bronze on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. So Saul is putting all of his armor on David. And it says, and David strapped his sword over his armor. And he tried in vain to go, for he had not tested them. Then David said to Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them. So David put them off. Then he took his staff in his hand. So he's got a staff in his hand. And chose 5 smooth stones from the brook. Everybody say 5 smooth stones.
5 smooth stones.
That's important. Don't forget that. 5 smooth stones from the brook. And put them in the shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. So here's David. No armor. Standing against a giant. Here's David. No protection. Standing against that diagnosis. Here's David, no armor, standing against the things nobody said could be done. Here's David, standing against unemployment. Here's David, no armor, standing against opposition, no armor. Here's David, standing against everything that everybody else is afraid of. And all he's got is this little sling. Now, let me preface that. It's not a slingshot like the toys that Dennis, the ministry staff. Okay, it's a slingshot. Okay, so he's got the sling. That's all he has. Now, you would think David's got God on his side. Oh, Lord have mercy. The God giant. What do you think his reaction is? Now, the giant, he's been warring since youth. He's been warring forever. He's been killing people forever.
Right.
He's been taking forever. He's been robbing forever.
Yeah.
He's been destroying, manipulating forever. He's not scared of this little boy.
Right.
So look what he says. Look what he says. And it says, and the Philistine moved forward and came near to David with this shield bearer in front of him. That's interesting. This great big man, this big giant, what does he need in front of him? A shield bearer. Why? And when the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him. He said, ugh. He said, who is this little puny punk? For he was ruddy and handsome in appearance. Look at that. It said he was ruddy, which means kind of disheveled looking. But it also said, or rugged, but it also said that he was what? Handsome. He was mean. He's handsome. Said he was handsome. I just think that's an interesting side note that the Bible would call David handsome in the middle of this battle. And it says, and the Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you would come with me with sticks? He sees that stick in his hand, right? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, come to me. Everybody say, come to me.
Come to me.
Say it like you're a giant. Come to me.
Come to me. Glory God.
And I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then David said to the Philistine, you come to me with the sword and with the spear and with the javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts. He said, you come to me with every weapon imaginable, but all I got for me is the God who controls everything. I don't need the God who created the sword. I don't need the God who created the javelin. I got to be a God that said he's my rock and my shield. So if you throw anything at me, it doesn't matter because my God will stop.
That's it.
That's right.
It says, oh, you come with me with the sword and with the spear and with the javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the bird of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Amen.
Amen.
In 47 it says,
Amen.
and that all the assembly may know that the Lord saves not with the sword and the spear.
That's it.
For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand.
Yes. Yes.
Amen. The battle is the Lord's. That's the last time you said that in your situation. The battle is the Lord's.
Every day.
I thought I had to grind it out.
Well.
I thought I had to do everything. I thought I had to wake up at 6, go to bed at 12 just to make it work. But it says, no. That would mean that the battle is yours. But actually the battle is the Lord's. And the Lord never sleeps on the job.
No.
No.
So you get some rest sometimes.
That's
You
it.
rest in the peace of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
You rest your mind. You rest your heart. Because God is working when you're sleeping.
Yes,
God is doing overtime to always out the issues in your life. But the problem is you won't get out the way for God to work.
That's it.
When the Philistine arose, verse 48, when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. Now, some people would think that David runs quickly to meet David or Goliath. But if you've ever seen, what's that movie? Not 300, but Achilles, Troy. If you've ever seen that, it's a similar single-arm combat situation. And what it means by the battle line is not face-to-face. The battle line is where the standoff begins. So David runs to the battle line, which is not like face-to-face with Goliath. He just runs to the battle line. That's important to remember. Please remember that. So he runs to the battle line. And what I love is that he runs and he gets this head start as he runs. Because he's swinging all the way and he runs up to the battle line. And he said, and David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone, look at the verb. What's the verb? The stone what? What is it saying?
Penetrated.
It penetrated with anybody else?
So.
Sunk. I love that word, sunk or sank. It went deep inside the cranium of his head.
Well.
It didn't just hit and reflect. It went in and it like stayed in. It made an impression.
Yeah.
It made an impression. What impression are you making on the things that you're facing?
Well.
Are you allowing the things that you're facing to make an impression on you?
Amen.
Well, that's
It
it.
sank in his head. And it said that the stone sank into his forehead and he fell on his face to the ground. So David prevailed over the Philistine with the sling and with the stone and struck the Philistine and killed him. There was no sword in the hand of David.
Well.
Then David ran and stood over the Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of his sheath and killed him and cut off his head. When the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, what did they do? They fled. I want to come to you, because I ain't even preaching. It's not a sermon. That's just the text. The sermon is this. Under God. Everybody say under God.
Under God.
It's important that you get that word stuck into your cranium, stuck into your mind. Because we've been told about this story time and time again. Who heard this story from a little kid?
Oh, yeah.
Who heard this story from a little kid? I did. They taught it at Bible study. You know, I already told you I wasn't that good at church when I was a little kid. I was sleeping all the way through it, but I caught the details, okay? What I'm saying is they talked about it all the time. And all the time, the story has always been framed in our lives as we are David, right? We are David, the people called from the field to go into battle. And we're the underdogs facing this huge giant. We're this person who shouldn't win under normal circumstance because we are the underdog. And we're facing this giant, this victorious figure who always wins, who always succeeds, who never loses. And we are the underdog. It's when the underdog goes against, it's no way that the underdog should win. Am I right?
Right.
We are the underdog. The obstacle is so great that there's no way that we can accomplish it. The obstacle is so great that the underdog is no way that he can win. Even if he tries, he'll need some type of miraculous trip, some type of Rocky-like workout to make it because he's the underdog going against the giant. And what I want to tell you is that you've been lied to. You've been bamboozled. You've been lied to. They've lied to us. They lied to us from a misreading of this text because the truth is you never were an underdog. The truth is you never were an underdog when you came to the front lines. You never were an underdog when they put the armor on you. You never were an underdog when you picked up the sling. You never were an underdog because you were under God. You gotta stop lying to yourself. The reason why the enemy always beats you is because you think you're an underdog. But if you know who you are, you say, I'm not an underdog, I'm under God. See, the problem is we never looked at the historical facts of the text because when you only look at it from the same Christian point of view that we've always looked at it, you're missing the point. And the point is that you've never been an underdog. When the giant else's came, you never were an underdog. The point is when the deal came, you never were an underdog. And understand what Goliath is all about.
Okay.
See, Goliath is a giant. And though he's a giant and he looks so big and so unstoppable, Goliath has put on all of this armor. He's put on the armor from the helmet to his chest garment, to his legs, to his feet. He's got swords. And the whole reason that he's doing all of this is because he's looking to confront David, what? Face to face. He's looking to confront David face to face. And here's the problem, that no matter what you go through, if you don't know that you are actually under God and not an underdog, you'll fall into the same trap that David could have fell into. Look in the text real quick. Go to the text of when Goliath confronts David. When he confronts David. And I believe this is in verse 44. And we'll start in verse 43. And it said, and the Philistine said to David, it says, am I a dog that you should come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, what does he say?
Come to me.
What does he say?
Come to me.
What does he say?
Come to me.
I don't hear you. What did he say?
Come to me.
That's the same thing the diagnosis wants you to do. Come to it. It wants you to submit to it. Then what does he say? Come to me. That's the same thing that every obstacle in your life is telling you to do. Come to me. Because the only way that you can beat me is if I submit to you. But if I never submit to you, it's no way that you can beat me. Because the enemy always prepares for a hand-to-hand battle in combat. But what he says is the only way for a hand-to-hand battler to win is if you what? Come to it. See, the problem is you see everything that's going against you. And the first thing you do is, I'll never win. You've already come to it. You see everything that's facing against you. I don't know why this is all on me. This is too much to bear. You've already come to it. And what David Goliath is saying is, I'll beat you, David, if you submit to me.
Yeah.
You've been losing because you submit to everything.
Well,
You don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it. You're losing in your marriage because you submit to the sin. You're losing in your life because you submit to taking the easy road. And all of it has ever said is come to me. It didn't say I declare victory over you. It didn't say anything about that. It just said come to me. And David never goes.
well.
David never goes.
Okay.
Because David knows he's not an underdog.
Well.
He's under God.
Amen.
Amen.
The enemy has a fatal weakness. And it's that the enemy is short-sighted.
Well.
And when I say enemy, I mean whatever you're facing. Trying to find an apartment, looking for a job, just anything that you're facing, trying to get the business off the ground, trying to grow the church, trying to do whatever you can. That's the enemy. And what the enemy is saying is, I'll beat you and I'll destroy everything you built if you only come to me. But this is what David knew.
Well.
David knew, although I've been in the field, I've always been a soldier. Lord have mercy.
Well.
David said, although I've been in the field, I've always been a soldier.
Amen.
See, do you know in any battle, and a guy named Malcolm Gladwell wrote about this in his book, David and Goliath. He says in any battle, there are 3 types of soldiers. There are cavalry. Cavalry are the type of soldiers that mount up on horses and come down to flank the opposition. Normally they come down late. There's another, second. Those are called infantrymen. Anybody who's been in the military, you might have been an infantryman. That means somebody who has the heavy gear, heavy armor, and you're going for face-to-face, one-on-one combat, okay? That's the second type. The third type is what? The archery. Now when I say archery, what do you think about? Arrows, thank you. You normally think about arrows. But in this time period, not only did they have arrows, but one of the most deadly and lethal components of the army was not just the arrows or the archers, but also the people with the slings. See, the people with the slings would act like people with arrows, and they would stand up on high ground, and they would twirl their slingshots, and then they would fire it. And they said that they can kill people over 200 yards away with deadly accuracy.
Well.
It says that the slingman can even shoot down birds. You always got David. He's ill prepared to fight the battle because he's got the slingshot. But what David knew is that the slingshot has been proven to kill enemies 10 times his size from far distances away. So I've already got the advantage because I've never been an underdog. I'm under God.
Amen.
Amen. All right.
Secondly, he has the slingshot, but a slingshot is nothing without the right type of ammunition.
Well.
So where does he go? It said that he went to the what? The brook of Eli, to pull up what? 5
Smooth stones.
The difference is that the history of the text tells us that those stones in that specific place have 10 times or 5 times more density than the average stone. That means that the stopping power of any stone from that brook was the same as the stopping power from a .45 handgun.
Wow.
So when David picks up the stone with the sling, he's already 10 times more deadlier than the enemy.
Well.
And while you may never pick up a sling or never pick up the faith, or never pick up the stones, that's the vehicle of what your faith is.
Glory to God.
Your faith is strong enough to take down any enemy because inside of your faith, God has already equipped you with everything you need to take down enemies.
That's it.
The problem is if you confuse your fight for somebody else's fight, you'll relinquish the same weapon that is bent to give you victory and pick up a sword
Well.
that will never bring you victory. Because you can never defeat the enemy hand to hand. But
Well.
if you stand at the battle line and you swing and swing and swing with the velocity of a bullet, you're going to kill him every time.
Well.
Because you're not an underdog. You're under God.
Yes.
So here's the takeaway.
Amen.
Because here's the thing. When you come up against the tragedies, you gotta have game plan.
Well.
The first thing,
Yes.
the first thing you need to realize is you have to fight. As simple as it is, so many people give up before the fight has even begun.
That's it.
You have to fight. When the bad news comes to you, you have a fight or flight mentality. Some people are just like the army of Israel. They see that the giant is so big. They see that the eviction notice is so big. They see that the checks are so small, which is a big deal. They see that the tires need so much work, and that's such a big deal. They see all of this stuff, and the first thing they say is, "No, I don't want to deal with this."
Well. Amen.
Oh, mama, if I could just tell you right now how big of a deal that is, you wouldn't want to be here either. You need to go back to the fields because that right there is too big. And although this is a dramatization, this is exactly what most of us are doing. That's why in your mailbox there's bills stacking up on bills, stacking up on bills because you don't want to fight.
Amen.
Amen.
You don't want to fight. You rather run.
Amen.
And what God is saying is that the victory will never be won if you run.
That's
Amen.
it.
That's why every day at your job you stressing, oh, I don't know what to do. It's because you continually run back to that little 4x4 cubicle, type in the little box, and you're never facing the problems head on.
Amen.
He says that's not how the victory is won.
That's
You
it.
have to fight.
Yes.
And he says, when you fight, if you know who you are, then you already know. And in Philippians it says, I can do all things.
Yes.
1 Corinthians, write this down. 1 Corinthians 10:13.
1 Corinthians 10:13.
No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man.
Well.
What you're facing is you're not the first person to face it.
Right. That's it.
You're not the first person.
That's right.
That's it.
God is faithful.
Yes,
And He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, He will also provide the way of escape.
Yes, He
that you may be able to.
Yes.
But you never find the area of escape if you're always running.
Yes.
You have to fight.
Yes.
And I love what David says in verse 32 of the text. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. You're a servant. I'm ready to serve you, God. I'm ready to serve you, God, I will go out and fight with this Philistine.
Yes, that's
Who
it.
here wants to fight? Who here is tired of losing? Who here is tired of running? Who here is tired of always letting the enemy get the upper hand?
Well,
Who's ready to say, I don't care, I'm a soldier on the battlefield, fighting for my Lord. I'm ready to fight with this.
That's it.
Something you may not have known. I read this while I was in school. It says that even most cancer patients, the life expectancy of a cancer patient increases in multitudes if they when they're delivered the diagnosis has the
Yes.
first mindset that
Yes.
they're going to make it through.
That's it.
That's a fact.
Yes.
Some people that are delivered bad news and say, okay, I can deal with this, I'm going to make it through, their chances of survival heighten tremendously. Because what? They decided, I'm going to fight it.
And that's it.
Second thing you have to know is that when you fight, you got to fight your fight.
That's
You
it.
got to fight your fight. You got to fight your fight. Remember when Saul says, all right, you about to fight, you need some armor. Let me put my armor on you. Now, what I've always mistaken about this text is I always thought that David didn't want the armor because he was too little. Has anybody ever thought that? Maybe I was the only one. That's that me the Bible study, okay? But you said what? It was too heavy, right?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Okay, some people said it was too heavy. Some people might have thought that.
No,
Wrong.
never used it.
He didn't use it not because it was too heavy, too big. He used it because he had never used it
Never
before.
used it.
It wasn't that his frame was not sturdy enough to carry it. That's a misconception. It was that he had never used it before. And what I'm telling you is that when you go into battle, no matter what your issue is, you better take with you something that's proven to work time and time and time again. Because I know when Moses went to battle, he didn't have on any armor. All he had was God with him. I know that everybody that comes into battle, they don't have armor on, but they got God with them. I know that when Jesus went to the cross, he didn't have armor on, but he had God with him. So when I go to war, I want God on me. I don't need your armor, but I'm already covered in the whole armor of God. I got my helmet of salvation on. I got my belt of truth on. I got my sword of defense on. I got my sword of truth. I got it all.
Yes.
I don't need nothing that ain't work for me to do.
That's it.
And the problem is you go into all these situations, and this is where people start. Well, let me try all of this spirituality, John. Let me try. Why don't you just try the same thing that worked with you when your lights was turned on?
Well, that's it.
Your lights came back on. Why don't you try the same thing that when your child was hurt, you prayed over it and it worked? Why don't you try that? Because that guarantees to work.
Yeah. Yes,
Anything else
yes.
is just a chance.
That's it. Yeah, man.
So David says, I gotta fight my fight. And that's the same thing that we have to do when we encounter tragedy. Next thing, we gotta know our why. This is one of the first things that leave you. Why do you fight? I love David. His why never left his mind. Amen. His why never left his mind.
Well.
When he first says about fighting, he says, who is this to go up against?
My God.
My God.
Yeah.
When Saul comes against him, he says, I don't need armor because I know who my God is.
Well.
When he goes against the Philistine, he doesn't say, oh, I'm going to be. No, he says, it's all about my
That's
God.
it.
Why are you fighting? Because if you only fight for selfish reason, that's not enough to motivate you.
That's it.
Any fight you go to, this is right this. Any fight you go to, you should be fighting it because you're trying to show the world that there is a God that you
Yes, there is.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
Imagine when the tragedy comes. And you say, look, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yes.
But I know that my God's going to give me
Yeah.
When you wake up out of bed, you don't feel like moving. But you say, I got to step out of bed because every day that I step out of bed is another victory for God. You say, I don't know how the bill is going to get paid. But when it does, that's a victory for God. I don't know how my marriage is going to work. But when it does, that'll be a victory for God. And that will motivate you past your excuses.
Yes, he will. Amen.
That will motivate you past your excuses. The problem problem is we've been stopping because of an excuse. And the problem is a lot of us don't even know what excuses are. See, we've been using excuse and excuse and excuse, and you don't even know what an excuse is. And you've been mistaking your excuses for your reason. See, a reason and an excuse originate from the same place, an inconvenience. But the difference between an excuse and a reason is that a reason is a justified occurrence that actually stops your progress. Here's an example. I'm driving to a party. My tire goes out. What is that? The inconvenience. I have an option. I can let the inconvenience stop me, or I can get it fixed and go to the party. The next day, I choose not to go to the party. The person asks me, they say, why didn't you come to the party? I say, I didn't come to the party because my tire went out on me. That's an excuse. Why? Because whatever the inconvenience is, it truly did not stop my forward progression. It was just an inconvenience. And the truth is that everybody, all the armies, that's all they had was excuses. Because whatever your fear is not enough reason to stop you from pursuing what God has for you.
That's it. That's it.
The last note I want you to take from this
Yes.
in preparing for your occurrence is it's not your strength that gets the victory, but it's
That's
your faith.
it. That's it.
The
Yes.
last misconception that you've been lied about is that David was never strong or David was weak.
Right.
You didn't see what happened at the end of the text. How can a weak boy lift up the sword of a giant?
Well.
How can a weak boy chop off the head of a giant?
Well.
It's not your strength that is the question.
That's
because
it.
David's strength was always mighty. He was a strong man. And you had to be a strong man to lift the sword of a giant.
Yeah.
But it wasn't his strength that pushed him through. It was his faith.
That's it. Amen. Amen.
Where is your faith at this moment?
Amen.
Because the truth is that your inconvenience or your issue, your giant has not come up in your life yet. It's maybe, but it's coming. Because they always do.
Yeah. Well.
You need to devote the rest of your life to building up your faith.
Amen.
So when your giant comes, you won't flee. But instead you'll make your giant flee. That starts right now.
Amen.
Because all faith originates with the author and the finisher of our faith.
Yes, it does.
That's Jesus Christ.
That's it.
I'll offer you an opportunity to rededicate your life, to get saved, to give your life to Christ.
That's
so that your faith can
it.
start the development process, so that you will be called from your field into battle and you won't fret a thing because you know you're not an underdog, but you're underdog.
That's it.
If you'd like to accept that invitation, I ask that you please stand with us and remain standing as we sing. Please stand.